12.1 Introduction. There are many roles that the forensic psychologists play, and one of the important arena where their role is highly acclaimed and demanded is in the case of children-related issues. In this context, the duty of a forensic psychologist is to protect children from all societal evils, criminality, etc. A highly qualified and efficient forensic psychologist could spare a large number of children from serious risks. For instance, in the case of a child, if the mother of the child knows the father is a drug addict, but cannot prove it in the court, the forensic psychologist could do this job very efficiently and effectively in a court of law, by testing, investigating, interviewing, carry out case analysis and so on, could prove to the court the addiction problem of the child's father. The court too relies on the report and the professional opinion of the forensic psychologist. In the present unit, we will focus on the role of a forensic psychologist in various child-related issues. We will discuss about the role of forensic psychologists in the context of child sexual abuse, describe child rights when testifying, and describe child custody and related issues. 12.2 Child sexual abuse and role of a forensic psychologist. In this section, we will focus on understanding child sexual abuse and will later discuss about the role of a forensic psychologist in this context. India has the world's largest number of child sexual abuse cases. For every 155th minute a child, less than 16 years, is raped, for every 13th hour child under 10, and 1 in every 10 children sexually abused at any point of time. A total of 1,48,185 cases of crime against children were registered during 2019, showing an increase of 4.5% over 2018. 1,41,764 cases. In percentage terms, major crime heads under crime against children during 2019 were kidnapping and abduction, 46.6%, and Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, 2012, 35.3%, including child rape. The crime rate registered per lakh children population is 33.2 in 2019 in comparison with 31.8 in 2018. Child sexual abuse is a serious matter. Forensic psychologists could play an important role in its identification as well as in providing suitable intervention. Let us first look at what child sexual abuse is, and then we can go on to discuss the role of a forensic psychologist in this context. Child sexual abuse is defined as sexual acts between youth and an adult, difference of more than 5 years of age. In this, the older person dominates and exploits or even coerces the younger person, youth or child. It can be both exposure and contact, such as intercourse. Non-contact offenses include genital exposure, voyeurism, showing a child pornographic material, or having a child undress or masturbate. Contact offenses include genital touching, oral sex, and digital, object, or penile penetration, vaginal or anal. The definition of child sexual abuse differs from legal definition to clinical definition to research definitions. In the clinical and research contexts, child sexual abuse refers to the victimization of young person by similar age peers. This, however, in legal terms refer to sexual assault. In the same line, perpetration of a young person by an adult stranger or non-family member is considered sexual abuse from clinical and research point of view, but from the legal context these are considered sexual assault. Who defines child sexual abuse, CSA, as the involvement of a child in sexual activity that he/she does not fully comprehend, is unable to give informed consent to, or for which the child is not developmentally fully prepared and cannot give consent, or that violates the laws or social taboos of the society. With regard to the child sexual abuse, The Government of India has brought in many legal procedures and a special act has been passed called the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences, POCSO, Act 2012, a comprehensive act to provide for the protection of children from the offences of sexual assault, sexual harassment and pornography. Despite all these, sexual abuse of children continue unabated. Sexual abuse occurs at all times, at all income levels, across all the races, cultures, and ethnic groups, castes and classes etc. Many of these child abuses are detected through child's own version and reporting, medical and physical evidence, behavior and emotional changes in them. Forensic interviews help in documenting abuse, and apprehending and prosecuting the perpetrators. The impact of sexual abuse on children can vary from one child to another. They can develop internalizing and externalizing symptoms. The former consists of depression, anxiety, etc., and the latter includes delinquency, substance abuse and inappropriate sexual behavior and so on. Some may experience significant symptoms and require treatment. There are various problems when it comes to identification of child sexual abuse. Many a times, there is no physical evidence. Further, the dependency on the child's self-disclosure is the only means of identifying. The child may also not reveal about the sexual abuse due to fear of the perpetrator. They may also be worried that they will be blamed or punished or being stigmatized and thus may not reveal to anyone. They may even feel embarrassed to reveal. Identification of child sexual abuse can thus be difficult and in many cases the older children reveal sexual abuse to someone closer, a peer or an older adult etc. and young children disclose after questioning. 12.2.1 Role of a forensic psychologist in the context of child sexual abuse. Once a person is suspected of the crime on the child, the forensic psychologist takes up a thorough investigation through interviewing, testing and gathering background history and so on. They also conduct a detailed interview through play, drawing, painting, using the anatomic doll, as well as cognitive interviewing etc. in order to understand the child's version of the sexual assault and the emotional turmoil the child is going through. All the data obtained thereof are analyzed thoroughly and the opinion of the expert, forensic psychologist, is presented to the court. The prosecuting lawyer takes over from there and the culprit is punished if guilty. Or else they may also be exonerated. In India there are many legal provisions to prevent maltreatment and also take care of children affected by all sorts of abuse, abandonment, and orphaned etc. Some of the important acts are, I. India Republic Act 7610, 2. Child Protection Act 1999, 3. POSCO 2012, Protection of Children Against Sexual Offences Bill, 2011, 4. Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Act, 2015. These acts take into consideration the welfare and best interests of the child. Ensures child welfare through support of the child's family. Intervention not exceeding what the child requires. Family participation in planning and decision-making for children. Ensure that the services are culturally appropriate. Coordinate, collaborate and consult with families and other professionals as well as agencies and community. The accountability of the department. When there is a case of maltreatment of a child, anyone can report the same on phone number displayed through Child Protective Services. It must be kept in mind that many cases of maltreatment go unreported and the reasons for the same include not wanting to report, do not think it is worth reporting, perceived severity of the situation and not wanting to report because the child is undergoing therapeutic intervention. Research has shown that sexual abuse has serious consequences for a large number of persons, but the extent and nature of the impact vary considerably. One of the serious consequences is the post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, a clinical syndrome arising due to sexual abuse/assault. In addition, there are externalizing problems, such as self-abusive behaviors. Some children also turn into delinquents and indulge in substance abuse. Most children do show difficulties in school performance, inability to concentrate, problems in interpersonal relationship, as well as a greater focus on their body parts and being self-conscious about the same. Quite a few children also become highly interested about sex, higher sexual activity, precocious sexual play, and even acting out towards adults and peers sexually. Some of the potential long-term effects of sexual abuse include anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, poor self-esteem, substance abuse, sexual dysfunction, etc. They also are under increased risk of sexual assault, that is, may become once again victims of such sexual abuse and assault. As is well known, sexual abuse affects the family as a whole, as parents also are strained, suffer from guilt, as well as experience poor and strained parent-child relationship. Other symptoms such as anger, fear of the unknown, guilt, high-level stress, irritation and aggression are commonly obtained in children who have been sexually abused. In quite a few cases, parents also show resentment towards the victim that causes more anguish, anxiety and a feeling of abandonment amongst the victims. Forensic psychologists play a significant role in providing diagnostic and treatment interventions to the victims. Most importantly, the services provided by the forensic psychologists in the case of child sexual abuse include the following: assessing child's statement in terms of it being truthful, and based on the available evidence, such as marks of struggle on the body of the child, etc. Assesses the allegations made by the child about the perpetrator in regard to how factual or exaggerated are the allegations. The forensic psychologists conduct psychological tests that would highlight the personality traits of the child as well as the typical assault or sexual abuse they had experienced. The tests are done after informing the child what the test is all about at his level of understanding, and making the child comfortable so that the child's responses to the test are frank, open and given without hesitation. While doing all these tests, the forensic psychologist keeps in mind the rights of the child and does not violate any of the rights of the young person. Forensic psychologists are invariably appointed by the court as an evaluator. This is not only for testing or in cases of sexual abuse, etc., but also in all cases of child custody problems, divorce suits and many more. Forensic psychologists, after ascertaining all about the sexual abuse problem faced by the child and her or his parents, take the role of expert witness. They also undertake research work related to various psycho-legal and medico-legal issues. Intervention for children who have been sexually abused. Many types of interventions can be provided to children who have been sexually abused. These include psychoeducation, crisis intervention, short-term abuse-focused intervention, comprehensive longer-term intervention. Short-term training in effective coping strategies can also be provided to these children. One of the most important aspects is also the support and help to the child and the family to address the complex, abuse-related impacts and issues. It is also important in this context to provide long-term mental health services. The intervention may also focus on the alleviation problems of emotional and behavioral aspects. They also need to focus on the reduction of the risk of revictimization. Often children who have been sexually abused may experience post-traumatic stress disorder, and for the same cognitive behavior therapy could be effectively used. Cognitive restructuring, relaxation techniques, desensitization and behavior management techniques to overcome behavioral problems are some of the techniques that can be effectively used in this context. Group therapy could also be used effectively. In group therapy, the victims share their experiences and feelings with other peers who have had similar problems. This helps to reduce isolation and the stigma attached to sexual assault and abuse, and gives them opportunity to try out new appropriate behaviors, such as social skills, coping strategies, and problem-solving ability. Group therapy or intervention helps reduce problems of anxiety, depression, fear, and contributes to relatively greater self-esteem. The forensic psychologist will also play a role in relieving the parental distress, their negative reaction, and help them recover by providing them psychological and emotional support. Using appropriate counseling technique, the forensic psychologist help reduce the emotional distress in children, relieve them of their guilt, anger and resentment, and at the same time help them learn coping skills which help to wade through different types of crisis situations including sexual abuse. In addition to the above, testifying in the court has been made less stressful and the child is helped to understand the proceedings, and later with help from the psychologists may also be the most reliable witness in the court. The main issue here is how far the child's testimony is considered reliable in the court, and the safeguards taken in this context are important. The following section deals with this important issue. 12.3 Child's rights when testifying. As is well known, a witness is one, according to the Indian Evidence Act, 1872, who acts as a source of evidence before the court of law. Witnesses, by providing valuable information, help the courts to deliver fair justice. It is therefore important often that the witness is reliable and credible. In the case of children, the question arises how credible is a child witness and whether the child can be made to provide his account of what he/she saw or witnessed of a crime event. This doubt is mainly due to the fact that it is assumed and also believed that children are too young to realize what is right and wrong. According to the Indian law, Section 118 of the Act, any person can be a witness in the court provided he/she understands the questions put to him/her in the court of law, and he/she could provide answers to questions which are rational and logical. There is no minimum age prescribed to be a witness in the Indian law, though a person below the age of 12 cannot be administered the oath to be a witness. Yet, according to the Section 4 of the Oaths Act 1969, any child who passes the test of competence and understands that they have to speak the truth, can act as a witness. To take an example, in the case of Suresh vs. Upstate, the Supreme Court of India held that a testimony of a 5-year-old is admissible as the child could understand the question. The judge added that as long as the child understands and comprehends the question, her testimony is admissible. The UN Rights of the Child, also combined with the provisions in the Indian Constitution and laws, determine what rights all children must have, which include civil, political, social, economic and cultural rights. The first category covers the survival rights, rights for protection, rights to development and rights of the child to participate. While rights to survive covers the rights to life, excellent health, nutrition, good or adequate standard of living, right to a name and nationality, the right to development includes right to education, support for early childhood care and development, social security and right to leisure, recreation and cultural activities. Right to protection, which is another important right of the child, includes freedom from exploitation of all types, protection from abuse, protection from inhuman and degrading treatment, neglect and finally protection from injury, disability etc. As for rights to participation, this includes respect for the views of the child, freedom for the child to express, freedom for the child to access all information, and freedom of thought, conscience and religion. Children must not only be ensured the very best protection, but must be provided with opportunities and help so that they get the best start in life and reach adulthood in the healthiest manner possible. In the rights of the child, other rights are those already existent in the Indian Constitution, such as the right to equality, right against discrimination, right to personal liberty, right to due process in law, right to being protected from being trafficked etc., and finally the right to be protected from social injustice and all forms of exploitation. In addition, there are other laws that specifically apply to children, as for instance how the persons should be responsible as teachers and good citizens of the country, being not only familiar with all the rights of children and all humans, but also groom and develop children of the society into good citizens contributing to the welfare of all. Further, some important aspects relating to the rights of the child when he/she testifies in the court need to be considered. For instance, before the child testifies, every effort should be made to ensure that the child is competent to be a witness. Children cannot be asked to take the oath, and hence their testimony is an unsworn testimony which requires independent evidence and support to convict the accused. This was not possible in the cases of sexual abuse or assault. Thus in 1988, a law was enacted in Canada, which eliminated the need for independent evidence and support in children testimony not being under oath. An alternative to not taking oath for children was that if children can understand the nature of oath and understand that by promising to tell the truth, he/she also has the ability to communicate. In such cases wherein the child understands that he/she has to tell the truth and also has the ability to communicate, he/she was allowed to testify. In other words, if the child understands the concepts truth, lie, and promise, and the child could think in concrete terms, their testimony was allowed without an independent inquiry or investigation. The major issue has always been whether the child could understand the question put to them and answer or respond to the questions appropriately. At the same, the question is raised regarding child's competency, as children do get influenced by adults and easily change their version. Often they are tutored as to what they should tell etc. by the parents and others, and as a result there is high degree of inconsistency in their testimony. Also, their retention ability of the materials in memory is not long, and thus they tend to forget and even at times may interpolate certain information which may not have actually occurred but heard by the child. To find out if the child is stating the truth, a test named voir dire is used, and during conducting this test the judge may test the mental capacity of the child witness. In other words, by asking the child regarding his/her name, address, date of birth, the child's school, the class teacher name, the name of his/her parents etc., in addition to finding out if the child knows the difference between the right and wrong. A child who fails to answer these questions will be considered not capable of standing trial or appear on the witness stand to present their testimony as a witness. Despite all these aspects of a child witness, if the judge finds evidence that shows the child is competent and he/she tells the truth, the child's testimony will both be admitted and accepted. On the whole, the competence and credibility of the child witness is also in a way decided case to case, as the latter varies a great deal, and the type of crime witnessed by the child and the environment in which he/she had witnessed the event, as well as the tutoring that he/she had, etc., make for enormous difference. It may be mentioned here that the power to decide the competence and credibility of the child witness rests with the judge. One of the important aspects related to child testimony is memory. Many researchers using lie detectors and questioning and interviewing in different ways, asking misleading questions etc., have led to influencing the children in changing their statement. Suggestibility in these situations have led to adding something to what they know and expressed or deleting something that they got influenced to do so. Therefore, unless the interviewer of children ensures that they ask appropriate questions and make the children comfortable in stating the truth as they witnessed, avoiding all kinds of jargons and abstractions, and quite frequently helping the child by confirming the meaning of words that the child used. Every effort should be made to make the environment friendly to the child so that he/she expresses without fear or anxiety and without inhibition the truth of what he/she witnessed and be able to clearly identify the perpetrator. Other important factors to be kept in mind in regard child's testimony include the age in years of the child and the stage of development in which the child is. The lapse of time since the occurrence of the event that was witnessed by the child. The kind of interviews the child had faced from different agencies and his or her experience in the courtroom. The intelligence quotient of the child. The child's ability to understand and comprehend the situation by the child, his/her ability to recall the event and his/her ability to communicate. The child's understanding the need to tell the truth, etc. Only when the above aspects are considered and kept in mind, would the child's testimony be trustworthy. Overall, the results of research have clearly indicated that these children need continuous psychological and social support, and they should be provided counseling through all available agencies, including the forensic psychologist who is dealing with the particular case concerned. Children may also experience discomfort while testifying or may not be willing to testify due to the experience of anxiety, and the main fear is facing the defendant. They may have fear of being hurt by the defendant. They may also experience anxiety with regard to not being able to answer the questions. They may also have fear of going to jail. The more frightened the child is, the less the child is able to answer any question. Postponement of the case and the possibility of reappearing in the court cause considerable anxiety to the young person. Testifying repeatedly also has a negative impact on the mental health, and testifying about severe abuse cause high levels of trauma-related problems. Though, after the testifying is over, there is a higher possibility that the children have considerably reduced anxiety, feels less victimized, experience slightly greater control over her emotions. The entire process and atmosphere could be made more child-friendly as is given below. Shield or hide the child from the accused. If necessary, put up a screen that could help keep the accused away from the child's sight. The child can give his/her testimony from outside the court, also through a visual link to the courtroom. Evidence can be given by the child in private also, especially in the cases of sexual offenses. The judges and lawyers must be in normal clothes rather than in courtroom attires, which may be uncomfortable and distressing to the child. Visual record of the interview, example, video recording of the interview of the child and the narration given by him/her could be admitted in the court. Even examination and cross-examination of the witness could be pre-recorded in private and prior to the trial. The judge may appoint a tribunal to deal with the cases involving child witness to ensure speedy trials. Every effort is put in to ensure that the trial is within a short period of time and the child is not stressed and pressured by the courtroom process. In addition to the above, the pediatrician has also an important role in helping the child victim to appear in the court. He/she, if becomes aware of pending divorce and potential custody dispute in which the child will be testifying, will alert the parents regarding the stress and trauma the child could undergo. In case the child has to appear in the court, the pediatrician will elicit the child's concerns, would assure the child that if he/she tells the truth, he/she will not be judged negatively, and may arrange for advance court visit. Where the child has to appear for many interviews, the pediatrician may suggest staggering of the interviews, giving rest to the child and help him/her overcome the stress and prepare the child for the forthcoming interviews. Or use a skilled forensic psychologist interviewer. The pediatrician may solve the problem and reduce the trauma of the child being interviewed by too many persons. Where reappeal by a parent or the defendant takes place, there could be retrial. In such cases, the child becomes extremely anxious waiting for the second trial where they have to retestify all over again. In such cases the pediatrician monitors the child for sleep problems, mental health issues, changes in school functioning, and where necessary would get the child referred to counseling services, and if forensic psychologist is available, she would attend to the mental health problems and related issues. While the criminal justice system aims to get at the truth and deliver justice to both victim and the accused, they also make sure that the constitutional rights of the child and those of others concerned with the case are fully protected. To conclude this section, it may be stated that child witnesses and their testimony are of great importance for the court, but considerable caution to be taken while getting the child on the witness stand to testify. Psychological support, a very relaxed atmosphere, friendly judges, persons and experts in ordinary dress and not in uniform, many facilities to refer the child to mental health services, counseling and to pediatrician when necessary are to be kept in mind when dealing with child testimony. Every effort should be put in to protect the child's rights and all efforts to be put in to deliver fair and just judgment to the child victim as well as the accused. Research studies have led to improving the many conditions under which the child gives his/her testimony. But much more needs to be done to make the entire process relaxed, comfortable and friendly to the child appearing in the court to testify. With technological advances and many trained forensic experts and forensic psychologists being available, it is now quite possible to reduce the adverse consequences of the children's testimony that have been presented so far in negative environment. This in turn would contribute to improved outcomes for children who have to interact with the criminal justice system. 12.4 Child custody and related issues. Child custody can be explained as legal as well as hands-on relationship between the parents and the child. Custody implies the right that parents have to raise the child and decision-making in that regard. It can be defined as a decision by the court as to which parent will have the care, custody, and control of a child. Child custody is of various types including legal custody, physical custody, sole custody and joint custody. In regard to the legal custody, the parents have the right to bring up the child in the way they think is the best. On the other hand, physical custody means the parent has the right to have the child live with them. In the case of sole custody, one parent has the sole physical or legal custody, and the joint custody refers to the sharing by both parents, the decision-making responsibilities as well as physical custody of the child. A forensic evaluation process in this regard mainly includes interview of the parents and child/children, psychological testing of parents and also writing detailed report and submitting the same. In almost all family law courts, child custody is the major issue dealt by the forensic psychologists. In addition, they also deal with maintenance, support, valuation, relocation, and termination of parental rights. While doing child custody evaluations, the forensic psychologist must ensure the child's best interest, his/her welfare to be paramount, and it should be done on time with a high degree of objectivity and impartiality. They should take into consideration the psychological needs of the child and the parental attributes, and where necessary take up counseling of parents. All reports, investigations, interview records must all be available factually and if possible on verbatim and professional records, and the results of the entire evaluation must be evidence-based. A thorough child custody evaluation must include who is the adult who could be made directly responsible for daily care of the child. A detailed and comprehensive life history. The personality profiles of the parents and the child-rearing practices they follow. The historical perspective of why the child custody issue arose at all. Medical history of child and parents. Psychometric measures. Individual interviews. Psychologist summary and interpretation as well as conclusions. In addition to the above, the forensic psychologists must also have understanding of various types of divorce, effects of divorce on children and the family, also legal knowledge regarding child custody and the different types, skills in assessing child and adolescent personality, and last of all the legal aspects of custody procedures. Thus, while forensic child psychology includes the application of clinical psychology to the forensic context, for both treatment and evaluation of children and submitting reports, it includes both psychology and law. The forensic child evaluations is used when parents do not agree to legal or residential custody of a child. Where the conflict is complicated, forensic child custody evaluations are an important tool to apply and provide for a solution that would benefit the child concerned. 12.4.1 Use of psychological tests in child custody cases. In cases where there is dispute between parents regarding child custody, the court may order custody evaluation by the forensic psychologist. Such an evaluation that is in the best interests of the child includes interview, observation, home visits and collateral contacts. Though one of the most important aspects here is psychological testing. Psychological testing will indicate the parenting capacity as well as the needs of the child. The test results serve as supporting evidence for custody of the child and to make the necessary arrangements. It is important that the psychological tests selected should be of a high standard, standardized in all respects with reliability and validity, and must be administered following all ethical rules and regulations. The administration of the tests and interpretation of the results of the test have to be carried out with extreme care and caution. Every attempt should be made to ensure the interpretation is accurate and takes into consideration various issues related to the child and his/her parents. The American Psychological Association stipulates that forensic psychologists or psychologists who do the child custody evaluation must base their opinions on the wide and comprehensive data collected by them through reports, diagnostic interviews, evaluation statements, forensic testimony and so on. It is insisted upon that to be admissible as evidence in the court of law, the report on psychological testing must be of a very high standard. It must be administered by psychologists of high competence. The tests must have been selected with great caution, and the tests should be fair and culture fair and administered also with high degree of fairness, and finally the test results should be interpreted with not only high level of competence but must be just and factual with high level of objectivity and fairness. In India, child custody evaluations are carried out by psychologists. Basically, the laws on marriage, divorce and related issues are governed by the personal laws of the parties concerned, as for example for the Hindus, it is Hindu Marriage Act of 1955, for Parsis, the Parsi Marriage Act and Divorce Act 1936 and so on. In addition, there is a Special Marriage Act 1954. For the welfare of children, there is the Guardian and Wards Act 1890, which applies to all communities. This protects the minor child's person and property. Family law in India is an important aspect that deals with marriage, divorce and the welfare of children. The Family Courts Act 1984 provides for the establishment of family courts that secure speedy redressal of disputes relating to marriage and family affairs and all matters relating to them. These courts take care of children welfare and their jurisdiction is local, and the SE promote conciliation and have jurisdiction related to marriage, divorce and children and property. As for child custody, the court gives the highest importance to the welfare of children. The legal position in relation to custody of children and parental responsibility, the principle that governs the decision of the court is always in the best interests of children. Generally, the mother has the preferential right to the custody of the child, especially female, and before the age of 5 years, except in cases where the court has examined thoroughly and find the mother cannot secure the best interest of the child, in which case the child is entrusted to the father. However, if the child reaches the age of 9 years, he/she has the preferential right to stay with father or mother. The court decides the custody of the child in terms of the child's basic needs and comfort. The parent who is more capable of looking after the social, medical, educational and emotional needs of the child will be given the custody of the child in India. Even if the mother is not earning, she will be given the custody of child, and the father will be asked to take care of the financial needs of the child as well as the mother. This arrangement will continue until the child becomes 9 years of age, when he/she can choose to be in the custody of the mother or father. 12.5 Let us sum up. The present unit discussed about the role of forensic psychologist with regard to child-related issues. In this context, we initially discussed about the role of forensic psychologists in the context of child sexual abuse. Child sexual abuse is defined as sexual acts between youth and an adult, difference of more than 5 years of age. In this, the older person dominates and exploits or even coerces the younger person, youth or child. The role of a forensic psychologist with regard to child sexual abuse was also explored in the unit. We further discussed about child rights when testifying. In the case of children, the question arises how credible is a child witness and whether the child can be made to provide his account of what he/she saw or witnessed of a crime event. This doubt is mainly due to the fact that it is assumed and also believed that children are too young to realize what is right and wrong. The child custody and related issues was also explained in the unit. And in this context, the use of psychological tests in child custody cases was also discussed.